Hey, Christian, welcome to the show.
Hi, how you doing?
Great, man. How about you?
It's a Friday, so we're almost through the week.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for those of you listening right now, you haven't met Christian. Christian A. Brown is the best-selling author of the critically acclaimed Feast of Fates series. He received a Kirkus Star review in 2014 for the first novel in his genre-changing Four Feasts Till Darkness series. He's appeared on AM 640, Daytime Rogers, and Get Bold Today with LeGrande Green. He actively writes a blog about his mother's journey with cancer and on gender issues in the media. He is a lover of the weird and wonderful and considers himself an eccentric with a talent for cat whispering. So, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you.
So tell us about the cat whispering. What's that about?
I'll see if I can get one of them over here. No, he's being shy right now. I don't know. I'm just really just a person that talks to their cats. So there's there's no real magic to it. I just, they have to be around a lot, and they are my company during the day. So, yeah.
Awesome, man. So, yeah, so tell us about your background then. Like, how'd you get started as an author writing fantasy books?
Well, originally I was a personal trainer. So my background's in kinesiology. I went to school for that, and I did that for a number of years. And I've always been involved, I'd always been involved in the health and fitness industry. I did that for about 10 years, I guess. My mother became sick with non-Hodgkins lymphoma, lymphoblastic lymphoma, in 2010. And because my sister just had her second child, and we were the ones closest to her, I ended up becoming her primary caregiver. So, I don't know how much you know about cancer patients or people in long-term care, but there's just a lot of sitting around. And we spent a lot of really good moments together, but I also had abundance of free time and nothing to do with it. So I cracked out that manuscript that I'd been working on for a decade, and was like 150 pages perpetually. That's as far as I ever got, and I'd rewrite the damn thing. And I just sat down and I finally finished it. And so my mother got to read a copy of that before she passed away. It's completely not even remotely the same story or characters or anything, but she was encouraging. She said, "This is what you should be doing." And so after that, that's what I went on to do. And here we are. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So now you're writing full time?
Full time, 100%. Yep. So I'm like doing the 9 to 5. Well, not 9 to 5. I'm more of like a 6 to 3 kind of guy. So I get up. I still have that routine. So I get up. I do my exercise. I take a shower, do all that stuff, and then settle in and just hammer out, force the words out, squeeze the prose out.
Yeah. That's awesome. So tell us about your writing process, because I think people would love to hear that. Like, how do you working full time? Because most writers, maybe they've got a job, they're working part time. But I found that a lot of people, when they shift to full time, they struggle with, how do you stay consistent? How do you continually produce stuff?
Yeah. Well, I think it's one of the, I don't, subscribe to a lot of writer, tricks and tips and stuff like that, just because I know specifically what works for me. Those things are obviously very helpful, but one of the most helpful things I did actually read along my journey was Stephen King's On Writing. Very cool book. Half of it is these weird sort of ramblings about how he was on cocaine benders when he wrote The Stand. But if you sift through that wisdom, there's some really good wisdom there about like just sitting down and doing the work. So I know, like, I treat this like a job. So I have, as I mentioned, I come in at 6. I'm like 6:30 at the latest. I've checked my emails. I've started. And I'm writing, and it's not always, people have this idea that like that art should always be creative and inspired, and it's, with writing, it's a different kind of craft where it's not. You just have to sit there and force the prose out sometimes. And for me, I'd say, like, I enjoy it. I hit that magical muse, and we get together. I'd say maybe 15% of the time. The rest of the time, I'm just getting sentences out. And eventually, you have a story when you get enough of those out. But so for me, yeah, it's really just sort of sitting and doing the work. Obviously, having like a background in health and fitness helps, because I'm used to just forcing myself to do uncomfortable things with my body that I don't necessarily want to do, and telling other people to do uncomfortable things with their body when I was a personal trainer. So that definitely helps, I think, having that discipline. But anyone can do that. Like, it's really just making the most of the time you have. So, even if you have another job, you still have that 2 hours for writing. make sure you're writing, like make sure that's what you're doing, shut down all distractions and sit there and do it. And yeah, eventually, like brick by brick, you have a story. So that's sort of my method or whatever.
The method of the madness, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. So tell us about then, when you finished that first book and you decided to publish, what was that process like? What was your thought process when you first decided to publish?
So there was the manuscript that my mom read, which I think I mentioned, and before I even began pitching it to agents or publishers or anything, or decided what I wanted to do with it, if I wanted to self-publish or go through the gauntlet, the first thing I did was I found an editor. I don't know why I had the instinct to do that. I think I just wanted some sort of critical feedback on my work. I'm used to critical feedback, and I'm used to constructive criticism. It's part of life. And I think as a writer, you need to get over that sensitivity very quickly, because the sooner you get over the sensitivity from editors or critics, the better you will be at your craft. Because these people, 90% of the time, if they are part of your team, they're just working with you. So I got really lucky. And my cats are having some sort of a spat right now. You two be quiet. I got really lucky, and yeah, I fell in with with Barbara Burson, who was a former. She's freelance now, but she was a former senior editor at Penguin Canada. So she knows her stuff. She's worked with I believe Guy Gabriel Kay. She's worked with some huge names, and I literally through just almost a series of very lucky circumstances came into her company. So she was my primary editor, and we worked together on the manuscript that would become Feast of Fates for 2 years and 4 different drafts. And each draft we went through a different time period and different characters, and then finally we got to the story that you see today. But yeah, so that's sort of how it all started.
Awesome. And so when you say editor, was she working at one of the major publishers at that time, or did you?
She had just, so this is post-downsizing. So there's that whole, they've all shrunk now. So she was one of the first or second wave people asked, to move on. And she's done very, very well for herself. She still works actually freelance for a number of the big 5. She just finished a project for one of them, just right before she took on my 3rd novel. But yeah, she's great. And so I started there. I started with just getting my work in shape, and before I even decided what I wanted to do with it, because you do kind of have that, it's that whole, you only have one chance to make a first impression, and you do. So you want to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward. So whether I was self-publishing or again pitching agents, I wanted to make sure that what they saw was the best that I could make it. Just to give, because I'm serious about this. I try and take myself seriously. Most of the time I take myself seriously, but and you have to sort of believe in yourself, and you have to push your best foot forward. So that's what I wanted to do. Yeah,
absolutely, man. Totally agree. So you ended up self-publishing then, is that right?
I did, yes. Yeah, I did.
Cool. So tell us about that process. I mean, was it easy for you? Was it tough? What was it like?
Well, it was a learning experience. There's always those things that you wish you knew beforehand that you don't, and they're usually mistakes, unfortunately, expensive mistakes. But I knew going into this, because I wanted to give this a fair shot. I invested all the money that I've made in my early 20s and mid 30s. I invested that in myself rather than saving for your retirement. I tapped into my RSPs, and I really, I had to spend money. And so yeah, some of those mistakes I wish that I had not made, but hopefully I can educate other authors on what things to do and what not to do. Yeah, so it was an interesting process. But I decided, after I decided to self-publish, everything sort of fell into place from there. So in terms of the contacts, you were watching the trailer beforehand. So in terms of just making all those artistic and building a team, which I kind of liked. I think that was the big appeal for self-publishing with me, is that I am a bit of a control freak, and I literally have control over every aspect of my product, of its message, of its packaging. And we don't like to think of our work as a product. But unfortunately, like, you know, it's a consumable media. It's something that you want it to sell. You want people to have an interest in it. So you have to have that business savvy. But yeah, I'm lucky that I now have a team and everything. Everything worked out very well after, you know, some unmentionable incidents.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, so if you don't mind, I mean, I'd love to hear about some of the mistakes that you did make, because I think, you know, people listening.
Yeah.
You know,
I would say,
I think wasting money, like you said, is like the
yeah.
biggest you make, you know.
And it was scary, you know, because this was my life savings, and it's like, you know, it gets scary when you're making these expensive mistakes. But I would say some of the stupid things I did would be, I did like one, you know, it wasn't large, but it was like a moderate sort of advertising campaign. The discovery was minimal compared to other avenues that I've used. Yeah, it was a couple $1,000s, just basically flushed down the toilet. So I wouldn't advise that until you actually have, I would say, maybe a massive backlist or something for consumers to continue to tap into beyond that. But I just sort of had this one book. One of the smartest decisions I made with money, if we want to talk about those, but so I would say, yeah, stay away from the expensive advertising campaigns. Build your platform. You always talk about having a platform, but you do have to have a platform, and you know you have to have your package, your product package, and it has to be appealing. And so build that first, and build your voice, and build your whatever social media you're going to do. I'm not heavy on social media. We can talk about that later. But, yeah, I'm not one of those people that like tweets, you know, what I have for breakfast and stuff. But anyways, so build that platform first. And then worry about, you know, the only expenses that I would suggest would be obviously an editor. So every writer, if you're serious, you need like a primary editor, and this person should be both your best friend and kind of your worst enemy too, because they're going to tell you things that you don't necessarily want to hear, but it's for your own good. You know, they're not saying these things to be mean. They're saying these things so that you will improve your prose and your craft and your storytelling. So spend money on those. That's definitely a smart investment. The other smart investment that I made was a visual artist. So a visual artist, which I think you saw some of his work. He's fantastic. I had another couple of visual artists before that, great people. But again, it was one of those things, I think I jumped into it early. So that's maybe money that I regret spending. I wish that I had taken the time to sort of shop around a little bit more. Sometimes my impatience is my Achilles heel, as I'm excited to do something, so I don't know how to control my impulses. But yes, so that's another wise expense, I'd say. And obviously, like, unless you're a web designer, you need someone who's going to build that social media sort of brand for you. So I have a designer that I work with. So those are the three good expenses. The two bad expenses, you know, jumping into mistakes and marketing campaigns. Unless you're like a multimillionaire and then you have money to throw around, you can advertise all you want. But otherwise, like, there's smarter ways to advertise and to spread your message.
Gotcha. So when you talk about advertising, I mean, were you paying for like Facebook ads, like AdWords?
Oh, it was a Goodreads. It was a Goodreads campaign. So, and it wasn't those little ones where you can sort of price them yourself. It was a very large scale. I mean, it was a nice experience, very professional, but it's just money that I wish that I had spent in other ways. Again, if I had the money to burn, then sure, it would have been a great. And if I had the money to burn, and if my book was where I wanted it to be at the time in terms of, you know, the messaging and the packaging and all that, then I would have recommended it, or it would have, you know, not been, so I wouldn't have such regrets over it. Yeah. So.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Like, from my experience, you want to make sure that the book really resonates first. Like you said, the packaging, the title, the cover, like everything is like rock solid and it's selling well. And then you can test out different ad campaigns. But yeah,
exactly.
if you release like the first draft and like, you know, there's still typos or you're not really happy with the cover, and
well, I was really, this is another thing, like with editing too, like I was really stringent about, like my book had 4 rounds of professional editing, and not like, you know, cut and dry, you know, my uncle's editing had like real editors. Like I had 2 copy editors, 2 proofers, primary editor, and then stylistic editor on top of that too. So, you know, and I've sort of streamlined that process, but I wanted to make sure that, like, if I'm going to self-publish this, if I'm going to do this, it needs to be able to stand, you know, head and shoulders with all the other books out there. And I did pay for the Kirkus review, which actually served me very well, because, you know, they it was entered in the Kirkus Prize pool last year, and they gave it a Kirkus Star. So that was actually a very wise investment, and it was also good critical feedback, just that I had made something that could stand head and shoulders with something the Big Five did, which was sort of the goal. So I used that as sort of a litmus test of just, okay, that passes the basic slush pile test. So yeah, that was another thing that I spent money on that I don't regret at all. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing I can say about looking at your books, your website, your book trailer, like it looks like so professional, man. Like you really can't tell it's you can't tell it. Not that there's anything wrong.
You can't tell it's self-published. No, I know what you mean though. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it looks so good. Like it could like easily be up there with Game of Thrones. Like it's just that kind of quality. And
yeah, well, I didn't. The funny thing is, I didn't spend a lot of money on that. Like, there's a lot of love put into it, and there's a lot of, and I think that like you can do self-publishing right, and you can make a really beautiful bang up product. And there's lots of examples of that, and I think that's what people who embrace it should really strive towards is making something that is just as compelling and just as polished as anything else on the market. Which isn't that hard, because like there's some horrible market books too. Not that you want to be holding yourself to that standard, but yeah, it gives you an opportunity to really make your own vision and product. And again, like the book, it's a cross-genre book, and it's got all sorts of weird stuff in it. It has like social messaging and feminist tendencies and all this stuff that you don't necessarily see in traditional fantasy. So I wasn't really sure that, like, when I thought about am I going to pitch this, just coming up with a pitch was so incomprehensible, because I'm like, how do I actually pitch this to an agent and then a publisher and then so on? Like, and so that was the first sort of thing that just made me say, you know what, I'm going to try this on my own. I'm going to see if there's an audience for it. And I was very lucky that there was, and I'm very grateful for all the people that have taken the book and really embraced it. So that's an amazing feeling. I think is that it's not vindication. It's just nice. And there's also people that hate it too, but that's fine. That's part of art. For everyone that likes it, or for every 10 that like it, one hates it. And I think that's sort of that's the ratio that I sort of look for with my work.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's totally normal. I mean, I'm always, when I get, discouraged by bad reviews, I just like, I look at like Harry Potter and I'm like, well,
oh yeah,
1-star reviews. All right, I don't look at like 5 1-star reviews. I gotta work on that. I gotta up my.
Well, that's the thing, is it's like, yeah, you can write something. If you're writing something that's not getting any sort of negative feedback, then you could almost say that you're writing something that's just too flaccid. Like, like there should be. If you're writing an emotional, powerful story, then there should definitely be the two sides, that the two swings of the pendulum there, where people really love it and then people just loathe it. and yeah, that seems to be the kind of writer I turned out to be. But again, like the response has been overwhelmingly positive. I'm very blessed and very grateful with how everything turned out. But yeah, and then thank you. I'm glad that it looks really professional, because that's what we were aiming for, right?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, tell me about, kind of your overall marketing strategy and like what's been really working for you. Because I mean, I see you've got, book trailers on YouTube. I mean, you've got your blog. You seem to be blogging like really, really consistently.
Yeah.
Is any of that stuff actually paying off, or what do you?
It starts to. So I mean, yeah, like the first, my blog just crossed, I think, like 30,000 unique visitors or something, which is fantastic. And that all happened, like I'd say the bulk of it happened in the last, since I sort of not rebranded, but finalized my branding. So about 3 months ago, I relaunched my website. It was nice before, but it was just sort of like an author-y kind of website. And I'm like, no, like I was looking at, J.K. Rowling and all these other people. I'm like, I can do better. I don't know that we did, but that's the goal that we were aiming for. And so yeah, I really want to make this really nice, fun website. People come and hang out. And so after the rebranding, and I've always been active, so I've always done a Sunday blog. That's my thing. At first, when I wrote that first post, it was probably like my sister and my cats that were reading it. That's about it. And that's fine, but it's that consistency, because you still have that back catalog of thoughts that people can go through. And you can see that, like, I mean, I don't know if you use WordPress. WordPress shows you the stats on who's visiting. It's a bit creepy, actually. It shows you like who's visiting, where they visited from, what page they spent, like how long they spent on that page. You can find all these really interesting metrics and statistics. So yeah, so people go into that back catalog of your ideas and your thoughts over time. It's just important that you just keep doing it. So yeah, consistently I do a Sunday blog. Every Friday I do like this thing called Artsy Fartsy Friday. I'm very active on, well, not very active, but I'm moderately active on Facebook. I do regular posts there, and I feature like an artist, whether it's a piece of art that my artist has done for me, or whether it's just, you know, some really cool, like there's a native artist here in Canada, Andy Everett, and he does some really beautiful pieces. I just you know, encourage others in the community. I think that's something that isn't necessarily done enough between writers or other artists or even cross media. It's like, you know, we should all be encouraging each other toward success, you know. So I try and do that every Friday. I feature an artist. And then I tweet occasionally, but I'm not really a big, like, I'm not going to tweet about what I had for breakfast because nobody cares. I'm not going to tweet about, you know, it's just white noise. So I try and make, you know, what I say in social media has, you know, there's certain things I do regularly, and then everything else, you know, I just leave. I don't want to contribute to that digital static that's in the world. So that's sort of my social media platform, I guess. And other than that, yeah, you probably won't hear from me. I chat with fans and stuff when they stop by on my Facebook page, but that's really about it. And I respond to emails, but that's about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, I just want to mention your Facebook strategy with those images. I think is doing really well. Like, you know,
Yeah.
I looked at your Facebook page and you look at the photos and like there's so many likes and comments and stuff like that. And it's just cool, you know, because you've got like all this, like, I don't know if it's fan art or art you hire from your.
That's Leo. So he's the one. It's Leonardo Borzio. He's my artist. He's from Italy, and he's the one that does all of the visual art for my work and my worlds and stuff. Yeah, he's great.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it looks like so good, like so professional, and it looks like it's getting a ton of engagement as well. So yeah,
we're getting tons of engagement. It's nice. Yeah,
I'm surprised that more authors aren't doing this. You know, I look at like a lot of the top, you know, novelists out there and like their fan page, like they have like no images or anything. It's just like, you know, text that, like, you know.
Well, you have to try. That's the thing, is it's like, you know, when you're at the bottom of the pile, you have to try harder to get up to the top of the pile. Like you're always fighting for visibility. So that's, yeah, rather than be defeated by that, try and find ways to just, you know, be inspired by it. Like I'm always one of those people that's like, if you push me down, I'll jump up. Like I often get sometimes, like, even though those things are devastating, like when you have criticism or bad things happen to you, you know, I've always learned to bounce back very quickly. Yeah, that's just life. You push and push and push. And then you die. So you might as well make your time here worthwhile.
That's so true, man. Life is short. Better take advantage for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool, man. So let's talk about a book club, because you just had a really, really successful book club promotion.
Yeah.
And I know some people listening have heard about a book club before and maybe haven't even used it. Some people have never even heard of it. So can you cover that real quick?
So I applied, you know, and again, we were just talking about this. If at first you don't succeed, try again. So I applied for book club 3 times. They rejected me twice. Who cares? You try again. The third time's the charm. I got in. I only got into their international, so their US, UK, and Canada. No, sorry, UK, sorry, not US, UK, Canada, India, and all of their extended territories. But I'm like, whatever, I'll take it. It's book club. It's a huge mailing list. They have, what is it, like, it's either hundreds of thousands or millions, but they have just this massive mailing list of just dedicated, you know, genre readers. So whether it's fantasy, romance, like whatever, they have every single thing, and they organize it. So basically, if a person is interested on whatever that sale is, whether it's free or 99 cents or $1.99 or whatever the sale is, it goes directly to their inbox, and it's not you and like this huge smorgasbord of books. It's literally just like 1 or 2 books. So they curate their selection each day. That's why it's so hard to get into. And the first few times they rejected me, was because I didn't have the Kirkus review. I didn't have like all of those editorial things. I didn't have all of, I have a publicist as well who's amazing, Rachel Wood. You know, we can talk about that after, but yeah, once you start to develop a little bit, I'd suggest, you know, to any writer that you just get a publicist, because they will get you into avenues that you can't get into normally. But anyways, so yeah, so I finally applied with, you know, a better resume. You know, my book is, you know, it's legit. It's got a nice cover. People like it. So they finally accepted me. And yeah, and it was an amazing promo. It was like thousands and thousands and thousands of downloads, and tons of engagement and letters from fans, and it's been really, really nice. And it's I've been in top 10 in Canada for over a week now or something like that. I was like outselling Jim Butcher and George R. R. Martin. It's cool to see, like, here's my book, there's yours. Yeah, it won't last, but hey, enjoy it while it's there. Enjoy the moment. So yeah, book club was a really big success. But again, that was one of those things that like took me, again, 3 tries. Like I had to just keep trying at it and keep improving my product. We don't like to think of our baby, our literary baby, as a product, but it is a product. And and I'm one of those writers. I've never had any illusions about the fact that, well, when I decided I want to do this, I'm like, I want to do this. I want to do this as a career. I want to be able to, like, feed my family and feed my cats and not live in a box. Like I want to be able to like support myself off this. So yeah, but yeah, book club was a really, really good success, and I'd recommend it to anyone. And again, if at first you don't succeed, try and try again. Just keep trying until you get in there, and they will probably reject you. That's totally normal. But again, rejection and criticism as a writer, just get used to it, because that's your life. That's what you're in for. Yeah.
Absolutely, man. You gotta take the risk and be willing to accept the rejection to get the success. Yeah, totally. So cool, man. So, you shared some awesome info with us. I really appreciate it. Any last words of wisdom you want to share with folks?
I think I mentioned the publicist. Once you are established enough, get yourself a publicist. So Rachel was able to get me into Chapters Indigo and retail stores. So my book is actually, you can walk into a bookstore and pick it up now, which is awesome. And just connections with radio and TV that you just can't get. It's almost because these people have so many layers and so many gatekeepers that but I've been on national radio, so there's been a lot of really cool stuff that's come from that. So that was actually what I would put definitely in the check mark for wise investments. Rachel's fantastic. I love her. And other than that, just it sounds so cheesy, but believe in yourself, right? Because no one else is going to, and you have to be your own biggest fan and biggest supporter. Of course, while still being open to criticism, because that's part of the process. But yeah, you have to believe in yourself, and you have to. There's enough success in the world, I think, for everyone. There's this idea that we can never be as great as so and so. Well, you don't have to be, but you can still be great. And so that's what I'm hoping to be with my work.
Absolutely, man. Well said, and totally inspiring to hear your story today. So that's awesome.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, before you go, tell us where people can find out more about you and your books and what you're working on.
So they're all coming out. So the first 2 volumes are out, Feast of Fate and Feast of Dreams. Amazon, Chapters Indigo, all the bookie places. I do my regular Sunday blog, as we said, and that's at, it's just a whole bunch of stuff there. There's the trailer, there's some amazing art and stuff to go through. That's at www.christianadrianbrown.com, ChristianAdrian, Brown like the color.com. So you go there, and there's links to all of my other social hangouts and stuff there. That's probably a good place to go. Yeah, you can put up that link, I would imagine.
We'll have all the links you mentioned in the show notes today. Yeah,
and then just hop around. There's lots of cool articles. I've written some articles for the Mary Sue, which is like sort of a geek lit website, so you can find some cool stuff that I've written there. And just stop by and say hi, and maybe we'll befriend and fan and author together. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, Christian, thanks so much for being here, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.